When you think of legendary hip-hop groups to come out of Australia, first thing that might come to mind was Bliss and Esso and Hilltop Hoods. But another group that comes to mind for me is Thundamentals. With numerous hits and countless accolades, I think they deserve to be recognised as some of the best rappers to come out of the scene. This is their story so far. Thundamentals are an Australian band consisting of 3 members, Tucker, Jess One and DJ Morgs. There's also been some other members that have come and gone, which I'll get to. Most of the members grew up in the Blue Mountains, around the Katoomba area to be exact, which is also home to hip-hop mogul Earthboy and Australian electronic hip-hop duo Hermitude. Tucker and DJ Morgs were the first 2 in the group to meet, back in high school. They bonded over video games and skateboarding. Later on down the track, Morgs got introduced to Jess One through his older brother. They were all dabbling in music at the time and clicked very quickly and all become friends.
Well, I think me and Tucker, we kind of became friends through skateboarding. I think we used to skate a lot together for years, and we went to the same high school. And then actually, I think we really clicked when there was like a games arcade up in the Blue Mountains. And then a few years later, when I was starting to try and DJ in some of the clubs up in the mountains and whatever, Jesse's older brother was a DJ, and he was doing drum and bass stuff. So I kind of was learning stuff off him. He was telling me, to learn to mix hip hop real good if I get into drum and bass, and he was lending me records. And then I kind of met Jesse through his older brother actually. And then Jesse was a rapper, getting into freestyling, whatever. And then I was getting into DJing, making beats and stuff, and Tucker was into similar things. So
they also had another member at this time who went by the name Silent Type. They weren't even an official group at this time. They were more focused on live music and were playing as many live shows as possible. They said that the Blue Mountains was a bit of a musical hub. It wasn't until some DJ friends of theirs introduced them to Aussie hip hop that they really started to think that they could make a career out of this. They then entered a radio station competition where the winner got a 3-free-hour studio session, but Morgs quotes that they didn't even end up using the studio time. They then got asked to support Muffin Plutonic on an upcoming tour. They didn't even have a name by now, so they decided to go by the name Connect 4. The name didn't stick. They eventually changed it to Thundamentals. The name is a very loose reference to how much it rains where they're from, but mostly they just like the name. Their first official release on wax was on Chasm's 2008 album Beyond the Beat Tape. They featured together on a track called Chumps and Rise of the New. At the time, Chasm was signed to Obese Records. After featuring on this album, they started to make some good connections in the hip-hop scene. They were also very close with a lot of the artists at Elephant Tracks. Their music at the time fell into the hands of Pegs, who was the owner of Obese Records. They eventually come to an agreement with the legendary Obese Records and signed a deal. At the time, Obese Records was the pinnacle for Australian hip-hop, having some of the biggest names on their roster, like Hilltop Hoods, Draft, Bliss and Esso and Illy. Pegs, who was the owner at the time, heavily backed them. He pushed their albums, gave them plenty of studio access, and got them some big features. And most importantly, they had creative control over their music, so it was the perfect fit.
I mean, like the whole idea of record labels. So at the time, there were only 2 options, and Jesse met Pegs.
And I guess we just kind of got along and, showed him this EP that we'd been working on. And so, that's kind of how it came about. And I remember we got a phone call. I think I got a phone call.
Yeah.
From Pegs, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, like, do you want to sign with Obese?" And I think we were all together.
We're all together. And
we were all together. And
it was just us 2, and we were like smoking a spliff out the back, and and we like jumped up and was like so stoked about it.
Yeah, I think I like covered up the phone. I was like, "Fucking Pegs, he wants us to fucking jump on. What do we do?" It was like fucking no brainer,
Yeah.
So we were just stoked to have,
It's the platform.
Yeah, and just someone of that caliber who we looked up to and we respected, kind of like show some belief in the potential, I guess, that he could see. So it was surreal, but really important for us, I guess, in those early.
Then in 2008, they released their self-titled EP, Thundamentals. Then, just under a year later, they released their debut album titled Sleeping on Your Style. And some of the tracks that fans gravitated to were Move It Up, My Favourite Song and Serial Illa. They were now regularly performing live and touring the country. In 2011, they released their second studio album titled Forevolution. It peaked at number 64 on the album ARIA charts. From that album, they even got their single, Paint the Town Red, added to Triple J rotation. They were also performing at a lot of festivals, only at the early slots. Their careers were going well, but they knew they had a lot more to offer. In 2012, they got invited to do Triple J's Like a Version. From here, their careers and lives would change forever. They covered Matt Colby's brother, and they absolutely aced it. It ended up coming in at number 49 in the Triple J Hottest 100 that year, and now sits at 5.5 million views just on YouTube. This was a turning point for their career. This opened up a whole new fan base. It had them all checking out their old stuff and anticipating their next release. And they definitely used the success of the Like a Version to their advantage, dropping their massive single Smiles Don't Lie, which is now certified gold.
Added. And then the Like a Version that we did was probably when they started looking at us like probably beyond I don't think we're really interested in being looked at as a hip hop act. We're just trying to make music. Like hip hop's in our veins. Like it's not going anywhere. But I think that's when they started looking at us like songwriters as well as a hip hop act, I guess. And from that point, it's been a relatively like, you know, we owe everything to their support, basically. Not everything, like we write the songs and other people connect to them, but in terms of having access to people, it was around Brother, basically. If it wasn't for that video, I doubt we'd be where we're at.
Yeah, like from that point on, it kind of felt like that's when they like. It was like they wanted to champion like us and what we were trying to do and with our music and that. So yeah,
they had something very special going at the time, and all they had to do is capitalize on it. And that's exactly what they did, dropping another massive single titled Something That I Said. It even peaked at number 66 on the ARIA singles charts. Then, on May the 2nd, 2014, they blessed us with one of the best bodies of work to come out of this country, their third studio album titled So We Can Remember. The album was a great success and opened so many doors for Thundamentals. It even peaked at number 3 on the album ARIA charts. They started to sell at bigger venues and get later time slots at festivals. They were now getting recognised as more than just a hip-hop act and getting the recognition they deserved. They proved it wasn't a fluke, dropping 2 more singles in 2016, Never Say Never and Think About It, which is now certified gold. On the 10th of February 2017, they dropped their 4th studio album titled Everyone We Know, which peaked at number 2 on the album ARIA charts. The album again is a classic from front to back, even featuring the Hilltop Hoods. But it also featured their biggest song yet, titled Sally, which is now 2 times platinum. By now they were making a living off music and didn't have to work day jobs, which was always a goal of theirs. By now they added a 4th member by the name of DJ Poncho. He helped them on production on the last 2 albums. Morgs and Poncho had 2 very different production styles. I think this is a massive reason why they found such a niche sound with these last 2 albums. Although around 2017, after their 4th studio album, Poncho would leave the group on good terms. In 2018 they dropped their 5th studio album titled I Love Songs. It would peak at number 9 on the album ARIA charts, and the lead single I Miss You going gold. Morg said after Honcho left that he felt a bit of pressure on this album because he had to be the main producer. Everybody But You and Eyes on Me off the album both went platinum and gold. From front to back, the album is another masterpiece, which is rare these days. It doesn't get mentioned enough, but Thundamentals had one of the best 3 album runs this country has ever seen. And if you haven't seen them live yet, you're definitely missing out. It's something they really put a lot of effort into is their live shows. They're incredible. In 2020, they released 2 live albums, the ISO Tapes Volume 1 and Volume 2. They're great, you should go check them out. Thundamentals have managed to establish a solid career for themselves, and it's not even over yet. They've always pushed themselves musically and tried new sounds. They've made classic albums, they have a solid fan base and always been the ultimate professionals. This has been their story so far, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us next. Thanks for watching.